"I'm an idiot," said the millionaire when he realized what he had lost. David Reed, a well-known magnate famous for his meteoric success in business, paced in circles across the spacious living room of his Manhattan apartment. His hands trembled as he held a sleek, golden envelope. He opened it once more, reading for the 10th time the words that haunted him. "Emma Taylor and Christopher Morgan request the honor of your presence at the celebration of their marriage. Before continuing, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers." David slammed his fist against the glass table, causing it to rattle under the impact. "I'm such a fool," he shouted, his voice echoing in the empty space around him. He closed his eyes, images of Emma flashing through his mind like a painful movie reel. Her smile, the look of disappointment in her eyes during their last arguments. He still loved her, but he had failed miserably to show it. So many awards, so many meetings, so many profits. But what's the point now? He silently questioned himself. The wedding invitation weighed on him like an unbearable burden. David grabbed his phone and called his longtime friend Ryan, a seasoned attorney. Shortly afterward, they met at an exclusive bar frequented by high-profile businessmen. As soon as David arrived, Ryan greeted him with a smirk and sharp comments. "Man, you can't let this slide like that," Ryan teased while pouring them both a whiskey. "Aren't you even going to try and win her back?" "Win her back? I'm not going to ruin anyone's wedding. I have my principles," David replied, his voice rough and tired. They laughed, though there was an undercurrent of empathy in their tone. "Fair enough. But are you going to the wedding?" Ryan asked, raising an eyebrow. David paused, frowning. "No. I'll make up an excuse, say I've got a prior commitment, and leave town. I need some distance." He pulled out his phone, searched for a luxury resort in Miami, and made a reservation. He couldn't bear to witness the final chapter of a story he had destroyed with his own hands. The flight to Miami was uneventful. David spent most of the time gazing out the window, lost in thought. Upon arrival, he headed straight to the resort, a secluded paradise with a breathtaking view of the ocean. Everything seemed designed to promote relaxation, but his mind remained in turmoil. After checking in, he was handed the keys to his room and made his way down the hallway. The corridor was spacious, adorned with minimalist artwork. David unlocked the door, stepped inside, and placed his luggage on the floor. The view from the balcony immediately caught his eye. The ocean stretched endlessly before him, a serene promise of peace. He took a deep breath, hoping to absorb some of that tranquility. However, the moment was abruptly shattered by a noise coming from the bathroom. The bathroom door swung open, and a woman appeared, wrapped in a white towel, her hair still damp. She screamed in shock, her eyes wide with fear. "Who the hell are you? What are you doing here? You creep! Get out right now!" David froze for a few seconds. "Calm down. I think there's been a mistake. I don't know. This is my room," he stammered, quickly grabbing his carry-on bag and rushing out. In the hallway, he took a deep breath and examined the key in his hand. Room 321. He double-checked the plaque on the door. 321. There was no mistake. His face twisted in indignation. "That crazy woman," he muttered, already heading back to the room. He knocked firmly on the door. After a few moments, the woman, still wrapped in a towel, opened it and crossed her arms. "You again? What do you want now?" she asked, glaring at him. David held up his key. "The mistake is yours. Look at the number. This room is mine. So, please, gather your things and leave." She raised an eyebrow, puzzled. "What are you talking about?" she replied, grabbing her own key to check. "Come in. Let's sort this out now." They both entered the room and placed their keys side by side. To their shock, the numbers were identical. The error wasn't with their keys. "We need to go to the front desk," she suggested. "Something's definitely wrong here." "Absolutely," David said, barely concealing his irritation. I came here to escape one problem and ended up finding another. She let out a brief laugh. Well, at least the weather's better here. Let's go. At the reception desk, the situation was finally explained. The room was actually a family suite with 2 separate bedrooms but a shared entrance. Due to high demand during the holiday, both of them had been mistakenly assigned to the same suite. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience, sir, the manager said, sweating under David's sharp glare. Unfortunately, we have no other rooms available. David clenched his fists. This is unacceptable. The woman intervened, surprisingly calm. Hey, breathe, she said softly, turning to the manager. Look, it's not the end of the world. We can share the suite. David stared at her in surprise. She smiled. I won't be here much, just to sleep. You can have the other bedroom to yourself. I'll be leaving tomorrow anyway. Her calm tone seemed to diffuse the tension. David let out a long sigh and nodded. Okay, sorry for how I acted earlier. She extended her hand in a friendly gesture. Lily Collins. Nice to meet you. Despite the circumstances, he shook her hand. David Reed. They returned to the suite, now with a better understanding of the situation. The silence between David and Lily was awkward as they unpacked their belongings. David chose the larger bedroom, while Lily took the child-themed room, filled with soft colors and playful decorations. After opening his suitcase, David wandered to the balcony, his eyes once again drawn to the vast expanse of the ocean. The waves rolled in gently, but inside him, the storm raged on. Lily soon appeared, now more at ease and dressed in casual clothes. Noticing the tension still etched on David's face, she attempted to lighten the mood. You know, I'm really sorry about all this confusion. Not exactly what you were expecting. Huh? David looked at her, pausing to gather his thoughts. No, I just wanted some peace, to get away from certain complications. Lily sat in one of the balcony chairs, gazing at him with curiosity. Sounds serious. Do you want to talk about it? He shook his head, letting out a faint, bitter smile. Don't worry about it. You've got your own things to handle. She smiled back, though something in her eyes caught his attention, a blend of understanding and lightheartedness. Well, I have an important conference tomorrow, she said, steering the conversation in a different direction. I'll be speaking to some investors. It's a big opportunity for me. David raised his eyebrows, intrigued. So, you're a businesswoman? Yeah, something like that, Lily replied modestly. My career is finally picking up. This event could change everything. But don't worry. I promise I won't take up too much of your space. David crossed his arms, leaning against the railing. Honestly, I could use a distraction. Might be interesting to see how your conference goes. You should take advantage of the time here. Relax a little. Who knows? Maybe you'll even sneak in to watch the presentation, she teased. David laughed for the first time in days, catching himself by surprise. There was something refreshing about Lily's presence. He hadn't felt this lighthearted in years. We'll see, he replied cryptically. But for now, I think I'll take a shower and try to forget today. Good idea, Lily said, standing up. And seriously, I hope I'm not disturbing your peace anymore. She headed toward her room, leaving David alone with his thoughts. What he couldn't shake off was how this mysterious woman had stirred his curiosity so quickly. The next morning, David woke before dawn. The sound of the waves was gentler now, but the restlessness inside him remained. After a quick coffee on the balcony, he decided to take a walk around the resort. His intention was to clear his mind, though deep down, he knew he was too curious to ignore Lily's conference. He got dressed in something subtle that would help him blend in. When he arrived at the main auditorium, the event was already underway. Investors, business leaders, and executives filled the seats. He found a spot near the back, close to a side exit, and quietly settled in. When Lily walked onto the stage, David felt his heart race. She stood tall and confident, wearing an elegant navy blue ensemble. Her name appeared on the screen behind her, Lily Collins, CEO of Collins Financial Strategies. The revelation hit him like a punch. He finally understood why her name had seemed familiar. Lily was the rising financial strategist who had been making headlines in recent years, known for her bold market insights and her rapid rise in attracting high-profile clients. Worse yet, she was a direct competitor in several of his investment ventures. Lily began to speak, her voice resonating through the auditorium with poise and authority. She discussed economic trends, the risks of emerging markets, and innovations in financial strategies. Her presentation was sharp and persuasive. David, who usually prided himself on his own public speaking skills, was impressed. As the talk progressed, the audience appeared captivated. During the Q&A session, a few investors tried to challenge Lily with tough, pointed questions, but she responded to each with a wit and expertise that drew applause. David watched everything in silence, his emotions swirling. Part of him still felt threatened by Lily's meteoric rise in the market, but another part couldn't help but admire her. He had never seen anyone command an audience so effortlessly. By the end of the presentation, the crowd rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Seizing the moment, David slipped out discreetly amidst the commotion. Back in his room, he changed out of his formal attire into something more comfortable. He sat on the balcony, staring out at the horizon, trying to process what he had just witnessed. Sometime later, Lily entered the room, surprised to see David there. "Did you have fun? Were you able to relax?" she asked with a curious smile. David looked at her, realizing he couldn't hide the truth. "Yeah, I did. It was great." She laughed softly. "I saw you at the presentation. You couldn't resist, could you?" He frowned, caught off guard. "What do you mean? I was well hidden. I saw you leave before everyone else," she teased. "Now come on. Tell me, what did you think?" David sighed, shaking his head. "To be honest, I had a certain resentment toward you, the prodigy who came out of nowhere to challenge the giants. But after today, everything changed. You were incredible, Lily. Congratulations." She remained silent for a moment, clearly surprised by his sincerity. Then, a shy smile appeared on her face. "That means a lot, coming from someone like you." "Someone like me?" David asked, intrigued. Lily glanced away, her expression mysterious. "Let's just say maybe fate put us in the same suite for a reason. How about we grab a drink to unwind?" David didn't hesitate to accept the invitation. They headed out together, ready to continue a conversation that promised to reveal much more. David and Lily found seats at the resort's bar in a quieter, more private section. The soft lighting created a relaxed atmosphere, while the gentle hum of ambient music filled the spaces between conversations. They ordered light cocktails and began with casual chatter, but gradually the discussion delved into more personal topics. "So, tell me," Lily said, stirring her drink with a straw, "what brought you to this resort, so far from everything? You mentioned you were trying to escape a problem." David hesitated. He wasn't one to share personal issues, but there was something about Lily that made him feel at ease. "I got a wedding invitation from my ex-fiancé. It was a shock. I didn't want to be in the city while it was happening. I needed some distance." Lily studied him thoughtfully. "That sounds tough." "I'm sorry. It was my fault," he admitted, taking a long sip of his drink. "I lost her because I was obsessed with work. There was always another meeting, another trip, another deal. By the time I realized it, she was already leaving." Lily shook her head thoughtfully. "The business world can consume everything around us. I've seen it happen to so many people. And sometimes you don't even notice until it's too late." David sensed that she was speaking from personal experience. "And you? How do you handle it? You seem to be at the peak of your career." Lily gave a brief laugh, though there was a trace of melancholy behind it. I've been alone for a long time. The men I've met either saw my position as something to conquer or as a threat. And I have no patience for inflated egos. Then they're idiots, David remarked sincerely, making Lily laugh more freely. And you, she countered. Have you ever tried to find balance again after your breakup? Thought about starting over with someone new? David stared into his glass, reflecting. No, I guess I was afraid of repeating the same mistakes. The truth is, I got too comfortable focusing solely on work. Until now, a moment of silence stretched between them. It was as though they were both contemplating the emptiness that their lives had become despite all their professional success. Lily lightly touched David's hand, the gesture full of quiet empathy. You still have time to change that, you know? It's not too late. David looked at her, seeing something in her eyes, something deeper, more genuine. And you? Are you willing to change too? She raised an eyebrow, offering a playful smile. Maybe, but tonight I just want to enjoy the moment. How about a toast? They raised their glasses, toasting to a night that felt like a turning point in their lives. The conversation flowed for hours. They shared childhood stories, family challenges, triumphs and failures. They laughed over old memories and were surprised by the similarities in their journeys. By the end of the night, as they walked back to their suite, David felt something different within himself. Lily's presence had lifted the heavy burden of pain he had been carrying. He no longer felt so lost. Thank you for today, he said, stopping in front of the suite door. I don't think I'd feel this way if you hadn't come into my life. Lily smiled, gentle yet enigmatic. Maybe fate knows what it's doing. They said goodnight and each went to their respective rooms. However, both lay awake, reflecting on how that night had reshaped the way they viewed their own lives. The next morning, David and Lily crossed paths briefly at breakfast. There was a different energy between them, as though the previous night's conversation had left subtle imprints. Lily hurried off to attend the final meeting of her conference, while David decided to spend the day relaxing by the pool. Yet, his mind kept drifting back to her, the way she had looked at him, how her words had resonated so deeply within him. By sunset, Lily returned to the suite, exhausted but clearly pleased with the event's success. David was on the balcony, sipping wine as he watched the sun dip below the horizon. Hey, she greeted with a smile as she walked in. Looks like you've fully embraced relaxation mode. David turned, smiling back at her. Finally. And you? Did you conquer the world today? Almost, she joked, slipping off her shoes. The event went great, but now I just want to forget about business for a while. I think I deserve a break. I'd say so. Have a seat. Let's have a drink. She accepted the invitation, and the two settled on the balcony. Gradually, their conversation deepened again. This time, there were fewer words and more glances, more pauses that seemed laden with unspoken meaning. As night fell, Lily stood up and extended her hand toward him. Let's take a walk on the beach. I need to feel the sand under my feet. David joined her, and the two walked side by side along the shore, letting the waves lap gently at their feet. The stars shone brilliantly in the clear night sky, and the sound of the ocean seemed to synchronize with the slow, reflective rhythm of their steps. At one point, Lily stopped and turned to look at him. You know, I never thought meeting someone so different could make me question so many things. David stepped closer, meeting her gaze. I didn't expect this either. They stared at each other for a moment, and then the space between them dissolved. The kiss happened naturally, without hesitation. It felt as if all the tension they had been holding onto had finally found release. Their connection intensified beneath the stars, deep and undeniable. Back in the suite, the desire between them became inevitable. Their touches, their warmth, and their gazes blended together in a night of surrender and intimacy. They forgot the world outside, fully immersed in a moment of vulnerability and passion. Hours later, David woke up and saw Lily sleeping peacefully beside him, as if that moment held the tranquility they both had been searching for. He lay there for a while, watching her, reflecting on how profoundly the night had affected him. It was more than just attraction. It felt as though something much greater was beginning to take shape between them. The next morning, Lily woke first. Noticing that David was watching her, she smiled warmly. "Good morning." "Good morning," he replied, still mesmerized by her presence. The moment was brief but meaningful. They both knew that the night they had shared would never be forgotten, and that from this point on, their lives could change in unpredictable ways. In the weeks that followed, David and Lily continued to see each other. At first, it was casual dinners in cities where they both had professional commitments, brief meetups between business trips. However, the bond they had formed at the resort began to deepen in ways neither of them had anticipated. During a dinner in Chicago, Lily casually asked, "Have you ever thought about walking away from it all? Leaving this endless race behind?" David sighed, swirling the wine in his glass. "More times than I'd like to admit, but it's like something keeps holding me back. A fear of stopping and not knowing who I am without all of this." She nodded, understanding completely. "Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I've always been defined by my work. My parents are proud of me for it, but sometimes I wonder if I'm just living to meet expectations." David's expression softened as he sensed the vulnerability in her voice. "Maybe we're more alike than we thought." Their conversation was interrupted by the buzzing of phones vibrating on the table. Both had received urgent messages about meetings and schedule changes. Lily let out a bitter laugh. "It never stops, does it?" "No, never," David replied, offering a sympathetic smile. Time passed, and despite their responsibilities pulling them in opposite directions, they found ways to see each other. In New York, they strolled through Central Park on a crisp autumn afternoon. In San Francisco, they walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, sharing dreams they had yet to fulfill. However, their growing connection began to attract attention. Rumors circulated within corporate circles. Paparazzi snapped a photo of David and Lily leaving a restaurant together, and soon headlines speculated about a possible romance between the two rival magnates. "This is getting out of control," Lily sighed, sitting on the couch in David's Manhattan apartment. "I know," he agreed, running a hand through his hair. "The shareholders are pressuring me for explanations. The media is using this to question our strategies." Lily bit her lip, deep in thought. "And you? How do you really feel about all this?" David moved closer, taking her hands in his. "I don't care what they think. I only care about you. But I also know this could cost us, Lily." She looked away, absorbing the weight of his words. Maybe we need to take a step back, just until things calm down." David didn't like the idea, but he understood. Both of them had worked too hard to build their careers to let rumors tear it all apart. Reluctantly, they agreed to distance themselves for a while, hoping to protect both their relationship and their reputations. However, the separation began to take its toll. David found himself frequently checking his phone, tempted to send her a message but holding back. Meanwhile, Lily, adjusting to her new routine in New York, felt a constant emptiness during nights that had once been filled with their conversations. Things seemed stable but fragile. Both of them sensed that something deeper was forming, something beyond their ability to control with calculated decisions. The days dragged on for David and Lily as they tried to focus on work, but it was as if the absence of the other had created an unfillable void. The media continued to fuel speculation, and in board meetings at both their companies, the rumored romance remained an unwelcome distraction. Feeling the mounting pressure from her public relations team, Lily made a tough decision. She needed to step out of the spotlight and protect her image. During a tense video conference with her advisors, she announced, "I'm relocating to Los Angeles temporarily. There are expansion opportunities on the West Coast that I can oversee personally. This should help diffuse the rumors." After ending the call, She sat motionless for a moment, staring at her reflection in the dark monitor. The thought of distancing herself even further from David tightened her chest, but it seemed like the only logical solution. That evening, she called him. "Los Angeles?" David asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "So that's it? You're just leaving?" "It's not what I want," Lily responded, her voice heavy with restrained emotion. "But I have to do this. If we stay in the same environment right now, things will only get worse." David took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. He understood, but that didn't make the situation any less painful. "All right, I won't stop you. I just hope you know that, for me, it doesn't matter what they say. I know, David, but we both know how much we've worked to get here. We need to protect that. For now." Their farewell was brief, but the silence that followed was deafening. In the days that followed, David buried himself in work more than ever. Yet no number of meetings or projects could shake the persistent feeling of loss. In Los Angeles, Lily tried to adjust to her new routine, but the loneliness was suffocating. The nights stretched endlessly, and thoughts of David became a constant presence. She found herself replaying their moments at the resort, the laughter, the honest conversations. But now those memories felt like a distant dream. The strain of their separation began to surface in subtle ways. David grew impatient and reactive, while Lily maintained a flawless professional front, but felt increasingly emotionally disconnected. Then the final blow came. During a crucial meeting with investors, David received a message from Ryan. Magazine X just released an article implying Lily moved to escape a scandal. "This is going to blow up." David felt his blood boil. The very words he had feared were now plastered across headlines. He knew this could severely damage Lily's career. The separation hadn't been enough. Now she was being hunted by the media, portrayed as though she were some kind of financial criminal. Later, he tried to call her, but the call went straight to voicemail. Frustration consumed him. He wanted to protect her but didn't know how, and the distance between them seemed insurmountable. Lily, too, saw the news. She felt tears burning in her eyes but refused to let them fall. She had always fought these attacks on her own, but this time it hurt more because it involved something personal, something she wanted to protect at all costs. The day was particularly gray in Los Angeles. Lily woke up feeling unusually unwell. At first, she thought it was just exhaustion from the relentless pressure, but the discomfort persisted. As the hours passed, she experienced light dizziness and a lingering nausea without any apparent cause. Deciding not to take any chances, she scheduled a visit to the doctor, wanting to rule out any serious health issues. While waiting for the test results, her mind wandered elsewhere, consumed by memories of David. The pain of their separation still felt like an open wound. When the doctor entered the room with a calm demeanor, Lily expected to hear something along the lines of, "It's just stress," but his words struck like lightning. "Miss Collins, you're pregnant." The world seemed to slow down. Lily froze, trying to process the information. "How?" "About 8 weeks," the doctor continued gently. "Everything looks good with the baby. However, it's important that you take care of yourself. I understand this may be a lot to absorb, so we won't push for more details right now." Lily left the office in a daze. As she made her way home, the words pregnant and baby echoed endlessly in her mind. It didn't take much effort to figure out when it had happened. The only time she had been with anyone recently was that night with David at the resort. Back at her apartment, she sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. How was she going to tell him? Should she even tell him? The fear that this news could complicate their lives even further paralyzed her. On the other hand, hiding something this significant felt wrong, especially from David, who had every right to know. The following days were consumed by indecision. She drafted messages and rehearsed phone calls, only to delete or abandon them at the last moment. Then came the moment that confirmed she wouldn't be able to keep the secret much longer. At a corporate event in San Francisco, A well-known journalist approached her with a seemingly innocent question. "Lily, there are rumors that you've stepped back for personal reasons. Some sources even suggest you might be expecting a child. Any comment on that?" Lily's blood ran cold. The speculation was beginning, and she knew she couldn't dodge the subject for much longer. The secret was on the verge of exploding, and she had to act before David found out through the media. That night, after much contemplation, she finally sent a brief, straightforward message. "We need to talk. It's important." David replied almost immediately, "I need to talk to you too. Can we meet tomorrow in San Francisco?" The meeting was set. Lily knew this encounter would change everything. She arrived at the hotel in San Francisco late in the afternoon. The tension in her body was palpable. Her hands were clammy, and her heart pounded in her chest. When she entered the private lounge where they had agreed to meet, David was already there, seated in a leather armchair, his expression serious. When he saw her, his eyes softened, but there was a restrained look in them, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Lily approached slowly, unsure of how to begin. David was the first to break the silence. "It's good to see you," David said, standing up, "but I can tell you're just as nervous as I am." Lily forced a brief smile. "We have plenty of reasons to be, don't we?" They sat down next to each other, and for a few moments, an uncomfortable silence lingered between them. David ran his hands through his hair, a familiar habit when he was feeling agitated. "You said you needed to talk, but before that, I need to tell you something. The rumors, they're getting harder to control. Now the media is claiming that you stepped back for personal reasons. They're speculating that you might be pregnant." Lily's eyes widened, caught off guard by how quickly he had gotten to the point. His words left her momentarily speechless. Noticing her reaction, David's gaze sharpened. "Lily, is it true?" She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Yes, David, I'm pregnant." The revelation hung in the air like a storm on the verge of breaking. David leaned back slowly in his chair, processing the news. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily could see the flood of emotions crossing his face. Surprise, confusion, concern, and something deeper that she couldn't quite identify. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he finally asked, his voice low but firm. "I was scared. I didn't know how you'd react. With everything going on, I thought maybe it'd be better to wait until things calmed down. But then the rumors started, and I knew you deserved to hear it from me." David rubbed his face with his hands, trying to absorb the situation. "I understand the fear, but did you really think I'd be okay being left out? That I wouldn't be here for you?" Lily lowered her gaze, regret evident on her face. "I didn't want you to feel pressured to change your life for something neither of us planned." David leaned forward, gently placing his hand over hers. "Planned or not, this changes everything. I want to be here, not just for you, but for our child." The sincerity in his voice brought tears to Lily's eyes. For so long, she had built walls of independence, believing she had to face the world alone. But at that moment, she realized she wasn't alone anymore. "I want that too," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. David squeezed her hands gently and offered a faint smile. "Then let's make this work. Together." For a brief moment, the weight of their uncertainties lifted. They didn't know exactly what the future held, but they had decided to face the coming battles side by side. In the days following their reunion, David and Lily worked together to prepare for the challenges ahead. They both knew that keeping the pregnancy a secret was impossible, especially with the media becoming increasingly invasive. They gathered their public relations teams and devised a strategy to announce the news on their own terms. The official announcement was made through an exclusive interview. Lily spoke with confidence, making it clear that her career was not in jeopardy and that both she and David were committed to navigating this new phase of their lives together. The blend of professionalism and emotional openness won over the public and investors, weakening the negative speculation. Despite the temporary relief, the pressure remained immense. David faced criticism from some shareholders who feared his attention would be divided. During a tense board meeting, he stood his ground. "I have always put this company first, but that doesn't mean I will neglect my personal life. If you don't trust my ability to manage both, then we have a much bigger problem here." His words silenced the critics, though he knew he would have to continue proving his ability to balance both spheres. Meanwhile, Lily encountered similar challenges at her company but found support among colleagues who respected her determination and leadership. When they were together, however, they sought refuge in each other. One quiet evening, after a long day of work, they relaxed in David's apartment. The city lights sparkled in the background while soft music played. "Can you believe it's been such a short time since we met?" Lily asked, lying on the sofa with her head resting on his shoulder. "It feels like another lifetime," David replied, gently running his fingers through her hair. "But in a way, I think that unexpected meeting at the resort was exactly what we both needed." "I agree. I was so used to facing everything alone. But now, with you here, I feel like I can finally breathe." David smiled and kissed her forehead. "And I feel the same. You brought something back that I didn't even realize I'd lost." They sat in peaceful silence, savoring the moment. Yet they both knew the road ahead would be full of obstacles. The media wouldn't stop following their every move, and the delicate balance between personal and professional life would continue to demand sacrifices. Still, they were ready to face it all together. The months passed in a whirlwind of change. Lily and David worked tirelessly to adjust their routines, balancing the increasing demands of both their personal and professional lives. As the pregnancy progressed, their relationship grew stronger, but the stress became more tangible. Medical appointments, business meetings, and constant media attention created an exhausting routine. One morning, during an ultrasound appointment, Lily received an unexpected surprise. "There are 2 heartbeats here," the doctor announced, smiling as she adjusted the monitor. "Congratulations, you're having twins." Lily's mouth fell open in shock, and David, standing beside her, let out an incredulous laugh. "Twins? Seriously?" The doctor nodded. Lily turned to David, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. He squeezed her hand, smiling. "This changes everything." Again, as they left the clinic, both remained silent for a few moments, processing the news. Finally, Lily broke the silence. "Twins. Oh my God, how are we going to handle this?" David took her hand, their steps slowing. "The same way we've handled everything so far. Together, we'll figure it out." The following months were filled with intense preparations. Lily cut back on her business travels and spent more time at home, arranging the nursery. Meanwhile, David began delegating more responsibilities at his company, something he had never done before. It was a clear sign that he was now prioritizing his family above all else. When the big day arrived, David was in the middle of an important meeting when he got the call. "It's time, David," Ryan, his friend and one of the few people he fully trusted, informed him. David dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, he found Lily already in labor, visibly nervous but determined. He held her hand throughout the entire process, whispering words of encouragement as she faced each contraction. Hours later, they finally heard the strong cries of their first children, a boy and a girl. When the nurses placed the newborns in Lily's arms, the emotion in the room was overwhelming. David, visibly moved, struggled to hold back his tears. "They're perfect," he whispered, gently stroking each of the babies' faces. Lily smiled, exhausted but deeply fulfilled. "I never imagined my life would take this turn. But I can't imagine anything better." In the days that followed, news of the twins' birth spread quickly. This time, the media approached the event with more respect, praising David and Lily's relationship as an inspiring example of balancing professional and personal life. Shareholders from both companies, who had once expressed concern, now viewed the couple as a symbol of strength and unity. David spent the first few days at home, learning how to change diapers and soothe midnight cries. Every moment, no matter how chaotic, seemed to fill his heart with a joy he had never known before. Time flew by in those first months after the twins' arrival. The once quiet and orderly home of David and Lily was now filled with the sounds of laughter, crying, and toys scattered everywhere. Sleepless nights became the norm, but neither of them seemed to mind. Every small milestone, the first smile, the baby's reactions to new discoveries, brought an unfamiliar, overwhelming happiness into their lives. David's priorities shifted entirely. Though still involved in strategic decisions, he began attending meetings remotely, delegating tasks he once wouldn't have trusted to anyone else. His employees noticed the change, but rather than criticize, they admired his ability to balance fatherhood and leadership. One sunny Sunday, after a walk in a nearby park, David made an important decision. With the twins peacefully napping in their strollers, he looked at Lily, who sat quietly, enjoying the scenery. "Lily, have you ever thought about how much our lives have changed since we met?" he asked, his tone reflective. She smiled softly. "Almost every day. And honestly, I don't think I've ever been this happy. Even with all the chaos." David nodded, his heartbeat quickening. He stood up, walked in front of her, and, to her surprise, knelt down. "I feel the same, and that's why I want this to last forever. Lily, will you marry me?" Lily was momentarily speechless, her eyes filling with tears of joy. "David, of course I will." He pulled a small platinum ring from his pocket and gently slipped it onto her finger. The moment was simple yet profoundly meaningful. There were no cameras or crowds, just the two of them, their children, and the promise of a new life together. In the weeks that followed, they began planning an intimate ceremony. They decided the wedding would take place in Tuscany, on a peaceful estate surrounded by vineyards. They wanted something far from the spotlight, reserved only for close friends and family. When the big day arrived, the scene was idyllic. The sun bathed the fields in a golden light, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of ripe grapes. Lily walked down the aisle in an elegant silk gown, her eyes locked on David, who waited for her with a calm, loving smile. During the vows, the words came naturally. "You changed my life in ways I never could have imagined," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "You showed me that I didn't have to face everything alone. You gave me a family and a new chance to live fully." David squeezed her hands, equally moved. "And you gave me something that all the success in the world could never buy. Love, purpose, and the privilege of building a life with you." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, applause echoed across the vineyard. But all they could hear were the synchronized beats of their hearts. The months following their wedding in Tuscany were filled with moments of peace and celebration. Their routines remained full of responsibilities, both professional and familial, but everything now felt more balanced. David and Lily had learned to value their downtime, celebrate every victory, and face challenges with a lighter spirit. One special afternoon, they decided to return to the resort where it had all begun. The place stirred vivid memories. The chaotic first meeting, the deep conversations, and the moment when their lives had taken an unexpected turn. Now, they walked side by side along the same beach, watching their twins play happily in the sand. "It's strange being back here," Lily said, holding David's hand. "It feels like it was just yesterday, but at the same time, like a whole lifetime has passed." "A lot has changed since that day," David replied, smiling. "And honestly, I can't imagine what my life would be like if it hadn't happened." They paused for a moment, the wind gently tousling Lily's hair. David turned to face her. "Do you remember what you said that night? That maybe fate was trying to tell us something?" She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "Yes, and I think you were right. Sometimes we have to be pushed out of our comfort zones to realize what truly matters." David pulled her into an embrace, their hearts beating in perfect harmony. Meanwhile, their children laughed and ran along the shore, their small footprints quickly erased by the waves. It was a perfect symbol of life's cycle. The past washed away by the sea, while the present left its fleeting marks. Back in their suite, Lily stood by the window, admiring the view that had captivated her on her first day there. She let out a contented sigh, feeling at peace. This place represents the beginning of everything, but now I see that it's just one of many stages in our journey. We still have so much to experience, Lily said softly. Exactly, David agreed, wrapping an arm around her. And now, it doesn't matter where we are or what challenges we face, as long as we're together. With that thought, they raised a toast to the new chapter of their lives. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a much greater story, built on love, growth, and the unwavering support they had found in each other. If you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comments. Your opinion is very important to us. Don't forget to subscribe. A big hug, and see you in the next video.